So Dave, Northampton was one of the last midweek games of the season. How was recovery and preparation affected by an early kick-off on Saturday?
Not greatly, to be honest. I suppose a few hours early doesn't make a difference for us, especially being at home. Maybe a little bit different for a travelling team. Is it different? Yeah, but ultimately it's another game of football. We obviously travelled back, got back late on early hours Wednesday morning. Day off on Wednesday, more of a recovery day yesterday. A little bit of work to do today, but in good shape for what's an important game.
At this stage of the season, if you don't play well, it's still so important to still pick up points in the manner that you did on Tuesday.
That'll always be important over the course of a season, and probably a sign of a successful team will always have spells where the game doesn't go, or games don't go how they want them to go in terms of performance. And you have to try and turn that round and pick up points and make of them what you can. So teams will say turn losses into draws, turn draws into wins. And if you can do that, then you give yourselves a chance. Tuesday was always going to be a tough game, regardless of what people think. It's really easy people will make assumptions, and it almost becomes a little bit of a maybe entitlement to think that we should be turning up at places and have a divine right to win football matches. That's not the case, and if people think that's the case, then we probably need to have a rethink of where we've come from and where we currently are. We know, and I know, forget what anyone else thinks, that in order to compete at this level, which we have done really well this season, in order to win at this level, which we've done quite a bit this season, we have to be on top of our game. And at times you won't be. Again, I knew that our squad would be important on Tuesday, and it was. The game didn't go and wasn't a game that we wanted it to be. And listen, we can review and analyse games. We know what games look like that don't suit us as a football team. And some of the games away from home, because of the opposition that we've had and how teams have set up, have meant that's been the case. So we've got to look at what we do. We've got to be better at that. We weren't very good at that on Tuesday. Again, without going into the finer details of what we had planned and what we wanted the game to look like. But we got something out of the game, and on another day we could have won the game. Not that we deserved to. So the subs made an impact, which is again has been important over the last few weeks. Hopefully that continues to be the case. But quite obviously we want to try and perform more like we have done over the majority of the season.
Clearly there was a bit of frustration with the officials, which led to yourself being booked. What's the message to the players in situations like that, or do you just have to rise above it?
I don't care who you are and what level of game you're playing at. There's going to be frustration. Now, there can be opinions over decisions, I get that, and in a lot of incidents there'll be I think it was this, I think it was that, 50-50, there'll be 60-40 decisions that might go in your favour or not go in your favour. But when something as stark as what happened on Tuesday happens, then it's difficult not to get involved. In terms of my yellow card, that's the first yellow card I've had in 15 years of managing, so maybe this says more about the officials than it does of me. At that point, I don't care what was being said. The fourth official wasn't passing on the information that I wanted to get across, and I wanted to see what the referee was thinking, because when I spoke to him after the game, he was, shall we say, very surprised that he got the reaction off all the players on the pitch, off both sides, and sometimes the clues are there for you. And fundamentally, referees have tough jobs, I get that, but what you don't want them to have or do is have a direct impact on the result of the game, and that was the case on Tuesday with the decision that he made, that every single person in that ground, apart from him, knew he'd made the wrong decision. And when that's the case, then I think that's when you've got more of an issue. Regarding moving forwards, are things going to improve? listen, you cross your fingers and hope, don't you? But I don't think I'm the only manager that's going to be sat, whether it be after the game, even in winning situations where you look and question performances of our own team first and foremost, but you have to question other things that happen in the game, and the consistency over the course of the season hasn't been great. But unfortunately, that's something that is outside of our control. But in the emotion of a game, when there's been an injustice, I think you're quite naturally going to be a little bit disappointed.
You made 4 changes for the game on Tuesday. Was that all about rotation, or was it about giving players a chance to prove themselves?
No, this is our last sort of Saturday, Tuesday fixture. So we've got some lads who, after Saturday, were maybe on the brink physically and was always going to be a risk playing them. And as I said previously, I knew our bench would be important. But obviously, how we finished the game on Saturday, we wanted to try and start the game with that intensity if we could, knowing that we'd have to make changes. So a little bit of both. Obviously, you hope that the game will go in a different direction than what it did. But I had real belief that whether it be seeing out the game, getting us back in the game, going to win us the game, that our bench could make a big difference on on Tuesday night, and it did that. And on another day, could have won us the game.
It was another goal for Benno as well. The noise around him signing was like he was one for the future. Just, you must be pleased that he's playing ahead of schedule.
No, he's still one for the future. That doesn't change. We'd hoped that we could get him involved, but I'm not trying to sort of put dampener on things or anything like that. But you've got to be realistic as to where he's at. We'd not really seen him. It's difficult when you're signing someone from a different country. You see videos. Again, the games that I've seen him live is exactly the same as what our supporters have seen him. I see him day-to-day training, and I've said before, we've played him. Is he a finisher? Absolutely, he's a really, really good finisher. And the start that he's had has been brilliant. Probably surprised a lot of people. That's great, but this is only the start for him. And we've got to be, I suppose, selective and careful around what we do. Is he physically up to what this division demands over 90 minutes? No, he's not at the moment. So we have to make a choice as to whether he starts a game when defenders are maybe fresh and the games are more of a tight contest, or whether he impacts the game later on when there's a little bit more space, then maybe defenders tiring a little bit, as it has been in the last 2 games. We've been looking to get ourselves back in the game, so maybe more forward thinking. But he's produced three brilliant finishes and got himself 3 goals in from I suppose from substitute appearances that have culminated in picking up 4 points from losing positions, which is brilliant. So he'll continue to develop, continue to work hard, and hopefully continue to have the impact that he has.
In terms of team news for Saturday, we've seen no Macca in the last 2 games. Is he back in contention for Saturday?
Yeah, he is. So the problem he has wasn't too severe. So taking off at Cambridge, it was more an apprehension from his perspective. So he's trained and ticked off what we need to this week. So yeah, hopefully he comes back available for us and plays a part.
In terms of longer term, how far away are Fraser and Nick Powell?
Fraser closer than Nick, although both were out, like I say, were outside yesterday. Fraser maybe a couple of weeks. So he's running, straight line running. He's got to add the twisting and turning. There's still a little bit of pain on the inside of the ankle, which isn't a problem. It's not going to do any more damage. It's just a pain tolerance thing. Powley with his just been increasing his, I suppose, his workload. So he's probably, like I say, a couple of weeks behind where Fraser is. But hopefully within March we see them both.
It's the start of a run of 3 games against sides around us in the division. In terms of how you approach it, do you look at it as 3 games or 1 game at a time?
Everyone will approach it differently. For us, it's 1 game at a time, because fundamentally we've got a Saturday, so it's over a 2-week period. And I've said in my programme notes, these 3 games, everyone can see them as, you see people calling them season defining and all this. We could win the next 3 games and then lose the last 8, and then all of a sudden they aren't very season defining, just as much as we could lose the next 3 games and win the last 8. And we finish with 85 points and are right in the mix to finish where we want to finish. So they're games that will always have a perception of being more important because of the time of the season, because of the opposition, and you can have a direct impact on your opponent if you like. But ultimately, the 3 points that we're going to try and get will prevent another team going and get 3 points, but it's only worth 3 points to us. And I think it's important that, like I say, you contextualise that in terms of what it looks like. That won't change. We're looking to win the game, and then the following week we'll do what we can to try and win the game, and that won't change. But that's not changed since the start of August when we set out to on this, I suppose, little bit of a journey of discovery in League One around what it looked like. We've got ourselves in a really good position, but we've 33 points still to play for, and we want to try and take as many of them as we can. These games are great in terms of the atmosphere, and all the games will be fantastic. The challenge is brilliant because the teams have all on good runs, as we are ourselves, and their opportunities. So we've got to embrace that and look forward to what's ahead of us, not just in the next, say, 2 weeks, but in the next 2 months between now and the end of the season.
It was predicted in pre-season that Charlton would be dark horses for promotion this season. Since Christmas, they've certainly lived up to that. It must be a big test in the form that they're in at the minute as well.
It is. I think they lost 1 in 10, but so have we. So they'll be seeing it as exactly the same type of test. Just they did when they went to Leyton Orient and won. Just they did when they went to Birmingham and lost. So yeah, it's a tough game against a team that are in form, but we're in not bad form ourselves. We're at home. We want to, I suppose, produce a performance that will give us a good chance of winning. We know we're going to have to be really good. We've played Charlton before. We knew when we went there we had to be really good. We weren't great, but we got a point. We've played them previously in FA Cup when we've been in a division below and know that we had to be really good, and we were on 2 occasions. So we don't go into the game with huge fear. We have respect of what they've done and how they go about it. We've got to focus on what we do and do what we can to get a positive result.